Okay, let's go ahead and shift our attention then to the precepts for today. I thought I would present on those and then see if Sandra Roshi had comments on these particular precepts. And the first precept we're going to work with is what we've called equity. And I think I've mentioned that in the working of these new presentation of the generative precepts, at one point in one of our face-to-face meetings, Sandra Roshi and I went through these when they were in draft form. And it was really interesting going through them, looking at what the intention was behind the initial precept, what we felt was more generative, and then also the interesting aspect is Sandra Roshi and I are both trained as lawyers. So we occasionally got into this sort of nitpicking lawyer analysis of these words. And one of the words I think we worked on quite a bit was equity, trying to find what was a good word that would encapsulate it, but also maintain a kind of neutrality that wouldn't be orienting in one direction or another. So we ended up laughing about this just because of we couldn't escape our full Zen and lawyer training entirely. But anyway, so the precept of equity, the traditional way it's stated in the Bodhidharma precepts is the absolute is subtle and mysterious. In the realm of the pure unconditioned, not focusing on the perceived duality of me and you is called the precept of not praising yourself while denigrating others. So that's a pretty interesting statement. So part of it is not focusing on the duality of me and you is what is the precept of not praising yourself while denigrating others. So that's a pretty interesting way to present that. And then the way that the generative precepts, it's phrased, is the absolute is subtle and mysterious. In the realm of the pure unconditioned, honoring the profound uniqueness of each being is called the precept of equity. So it's a little shift in the perspective. So rather than not focusing on the duality in the first presentation is a way of praising ourselves. In the second, it's honoring the profound uniqueness. So it's rather than looking at orienting to the non-duality, we're focusing on the unique contribution of each being. And there is a way that by doing so, we're orienting to the expression of the absolute as that person, as the gifts that person has. And by doing so also, we're going to be inviting an authentic humility. So we're seeing each person as a full expression and function of the absolute. And what's interesting is that with this precept, we can actually hold someone, view someone as being an expression of the absolute, even if we don't like them, even if we don't agree with how they live their life. We nonetheless can know they're still an undivided part and expression of the absolute. They may be engaged in some of the self-generating, the self-affirming behavior I talked about last time, which is one of the ways that I define the pure precept of cease from evil, is doing self-centered behavior knowingly at the expense of others. And so we're really focusing on breaking that down. And even seeing like the example we talked about earlier, even praying for the Nazi guards. There's a way they're still the absolute, even if they're functioning through delusion, through personality, through the mistaken sense that I am this independent being that's not responsible to other beings. So equity is also not seeing ourselves as better or above others. So this is where we're not focusing on things like our position in society, our level of attainment even. In a number of the Zen centers, particularly in the early days when Sandra Roshi and I were practicing, it was common knowledge, or fairly common knowledge, who had had awakenings, and those people were very much put upon pedestals. We really revered and almost worshipped them. And the problem was we removed their humanity from them by doing that. We created a shell of a person, and the problem was that then they couldn't live up to it. And if they hadn't done their work, we were investing them as being living Buddhas. We thought everything they did was enlightened. And that didn't give them room to move and to work on personal issues or patterns that were unhealthy. So in some of the ways, some of the Zen centers, the students were equally responsible for some of the problems that arose, that we weren't mature enough to see them as people and to view their behavior in that context.